Pesachim Daf Gimel, I would like to welcome the hundreds of new followers. You should be zoicha to follow us throughout the entire Masech, the Meksim, Masech Pesachim together, and eventually the entire Shas. Welcome. I received close to 50 emails in the last 24 hours, and I would like to read and welcome some of the new people that joined the shir rather than reading the emotional ones, which will come at a later time. From Rabbi Eliezer Kessler from Houston, Texas. What a wonderful scene. Pushing me to get others involved. I got my brother hooked in the beginning of Erev and he stuck through it. He told me he was crying yesterday when he finished. That brought tears to my eyes. He now is trying to get our father involved. We will see. Thank you again for all that you do. Eliezer Kessler, Houston, Texas. From Avi Mendelbaum in Moreshet in Israel. I just want to point out and welcome Joe Berry, who joined us in the middle of Erev. Joe lives about 8 houses up the block from me today. Eli Fagan joined us. He lives about 6 minutes up the block in the other direction. Thank you, Avi. This is from Avram Meir Fagish from New York, or how he calls it, New York. I just heard from an old friend of mine that he'll be joining this year for Pesachim. Can you give him a shout out? His name is Menashe Roth from Brooklyn, New York. Have a wonderful day, Avram Farkovich. So, Pesachim Daf Gimel is a continuation of Daf Beis. The word Ar, as we know, means light, but when the Mishnah says that you do B'dikas Chametz Ar La'ar Basar, is referring to the night or the day, and if it's referring to the night, it's a sarcastic way of saying it. You say Ar, light, instead of night. Don't bring a rice, says the Gemara, from a kohen who's standing on the Mizbeach performing the Avodah, and all of a sudden it says La'ira, which means it turns into day. He has to do Kiddush Yadayim V'Raglayim, he has to wash his hands and his feet. So once again, you see that Ira means day, says the Gemara. You're right, Ira means day. We're talking about the word Ar, and that's different. A woman who gives birth to a girl, she's tmeya for 14 days. Anything else from 14 days until day 80, in other words, 66 days, are tahar. No matter what dam she sees, she is tahira. If this woman miscarries in the middle of those 66 days, she doesn't have to bring an additional carbon. The carbon that she brings all the way on day 80 is enough. But if she miscarries on day 81, she has to bring an additional carbon. What if she miscarries Erev 81, the night of 80? In other words, Ar. So it says, this is machlokes between Beisil and Mishamai, but you see that the Gemara calls it Ar. In other words, the night of is called Ar, and the Gemara says that's a great raya that Ar is in fact night. The Gemara also says, I would think that shlamim, carbon shlamim, should be eaten on the night of the third night after it's shechted. How does the Gemara call it? Ar l'shlishi. So you see that Ar is a night. Great raya. The Gemara also uses the lashon Ar as the night of Yom Kippur. Ar Yom Kippur. In other words, the first Ma'ariv of Yom Kippur. And the same halacha would apply to Shachar, Mincha, and Ilah. We daven 7 brachas and vidui. So once again, you see Ar means a night, referring to Ma'ariv. The Ma'ariv after Yom Kippur, the Gemara says, is machlokes, do we shorten the Shemona Esrei because people are really hungry? Do you do Havinenu? Or do you do a regular Shemona Esrei? One last raya, the Gemara says, it says, Leil Yudalit. Leil, the night of Yudalit, you do B'dikas Chametz. So that means it corresponds to our mission that says Ar Yudalit. In other words, Ar is Leil, it's night. So the Gemara says, in fact, everybody agrees, Rav Huna, Rav Yehuda, they all agree that Ar is the night by us. Just in where Rav Huna lived, Ar was the day, and where Rav Yehuda lived, Ar was night. Just the way they called it. So if so, why did the Tana use the word Ar? Shouldn't the Tana just use a simple language, Leil? And the Gemara says to teach us that you're supposed to talk in a refined manner. You don't call the night night, that's not a nice thing. You call it Ar. And you see, Yeshua ben Levi also says a person should never say something that's not refined. You see the Torah added 8 letters in Parshas Noach. Instead of saying Habehema Tmeya, it says Habehema Asher Inena Tahira. Rav Papa says 9 letters were added. Lo Yetar Mikra Laila. Ravina says, in fact, that's 10, because the word Tahir is with a Vav, that's the 10th letter. Rav Acha Bar Yaakov says the Torah added 16 letters. It says Mikra Ubilti Tahir by David HaMelech Hu Kiloi Tahir. 16 letters. The Torah speaks in a very refined way when it's describing the tumah of a Zav, a male, it says Merkav. But since it's not sneeze for a woman to ride an animal like that, so the Torah calls it Moishav. There's 2 psukim, Vativchar Lashon Harumim, you should choose a wise way of speaking. Vidas Sefasei Bar, and the way I speak is clear. The Gemara tells us one is a pasuk talking about the Rabbanan should also talk in a refined way, and people within each other, they should talk in a refined way. When a woman is frightened and scared, let's say she's riding a tall animal like a camel, or a donkey at night, or in front of David HaMelech, or by the mountains, then she rides like a man, which is a merkav, and not to the side of the animal, which is moshav. And that's the derech, so it's okay. Once the Torah teaches us that you're supposed to speak in a refined manner, then we know the halacha is if the words are identical, the amount of letters are identical, so the Torah is going to always use the refined way. But if they are more letters to say the refined way, then the Torah chooses the kitzer, the shorter way, because a person should always teach a student in a short version. Here's a plug for the 8-minute daf. And the reason is, Rashi says, because when you learn in a concise way, you remember it longer. Yet the Torah itself uses the word tameh, which is not refined, because it's shorter. The Gemara teaches us a few stories. There was two Talmidim that said in front of Rav, "We are so tired from learning Torah," said one Talmid, "I'm as tired as a pig." And the other one says, I'm as tired as a goat. Rav never spoke to the one who said the word pig. It was either Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai sitting in front of Hillel, or is Rabbi Yochanan sitting in front of Rebbe, and other Talmidim were there. And one of them, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, or Rabbi Yochanan said, "Why is it that when you reap grapes, you have to do it with tar kalim, but when you reap the olives, they don't have to be tar?" And he used a nice lashon. It says, "V'lo zeisim b'tahara." The other Talmud said, "Zeisim b'tuma." So Rebbe, or Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, said, this Talmud is going to be a big person, and in fact, they grew to be Rabbi Yochanan, or, sorry, not Hillel, it was Hillel, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Gemara tells us another story. There were three kohanim talking. He said, one said, "I received a portion the size of a bean." The other one said the size of a olive, and the third one said, "I received a portion the size of a lizard's tail." So the Gemara, they checked after him, and they saw that he was a balgaiva. There was a certain gaiva that he had shachats, or they actually checked to see his ancestry, and they saw that there's a problem with his yichus. The reason why they were able to check his yichus, because typically you can't, is because he said something not nice. Once he opened up the door, they were able to check it. Famous story where a guy ran around telling people, "I eat from the carbon Pesach," which is asur. So Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira told him a little bit of a trick here. He said, "You didn't get what the better people get. You didn't get from the tail." So he ran back to the Beis Hamikdash and he said, "Give me some of the tail." He said, "No, the tail's for the Mizbeach. We don't give people tail." He thought they're tricking him. In fact, that's the halacha. And he said, but Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira said, "You should give me the tail." They realized right away what's going on. They checked, they saw that he's a guy, and they killed him. And then they sent back to Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira the famous saying, "At ben Etzivin, you might be standing in Etzivin, yet your net reaches far to Yerushalayim." Have a wonderful day.